Let's go Dolphins! A major change has just occurred in New York and could trigger a domino effect, shaking the foundations of the Miami Dolphins. I'm not talking about rumors or speculation. I'm talking about real possibilities that could turn this franchise upside down. Are the Dolphins preparing to replace Mike Mcdaniel? Is there a surprise name with strong ties to Tua already being considered as next in line? And what if I told you that this person could also end up returning to one of our biggest rivals if Miami doesn't act fast? This is the kind of moment that could define the next decade of Dolphins football. A bold decision, a masterstroke, or a missed opportunity that could haunt us every season. Feeling it chilly yet? You should, because what I'm about to reveal isn't just speculation, it's strategy, history, and timing coming together. But before I explain exactly what's happening, don't forget to like this post if you're a true Dolphins fan with a bleeding blue and orange heart. And if you've been a fan of this team for more than 20 years, leave a comment right now saying, "Go Dolphins!" My heart bleeds blue and orange. Okay, let's go, because this situation is developing rapidly and could mean everything for the future of our team. Brian Daboll being let go in New York doesn't just impact the Giants, it potentially impacts the Miami Dolphins in three major ways. First, with the Dolphins potentially undergoing a major front office and coaching shift this offseason, Daboll suddenly becomes a very realistic name on the radar for owner Stephen Ross and any new GM that might take over in 2025. We've already seen that if this Dolphins team completely falls apart and ends the season with a record like 4-13, McDaniel could be on the way out regardless of past success. Even a respectable 7-10 could trigger a full rebuild under new management. And don't think Daboll's track record is just some forgettable stint in New York. He won AP Coach of the Year in 2022 after dragging Daniel Jones and a mediocre roster into the playoffs and actually securing a win in Minnesota. Not only that, but Dolphins fans with long memories will recall that Daboll was Miami's offensive coordinator back in 2011. Though his time in South Florida back then was short, he left a mark and has only gained more experience and success since then. More importantly, Daboll's connections with current Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa could completely change the outlook for this team's quarterback future. Daboll was Alabama's offensive coordinator in 2017, yes, the very season Tua came in during the national championship and stole the show. That's not just a coincidence. There's history, there's chemistry, and there's familiarity. And when it comes to turning around quarterbacks and developing young talent, Daboll's track record is actually one of the best in the league. Look at the numbers. When Daboll took over in Buffalo as OC, the Bills' offense steadily improved year after year. He turned Josh Allen from a wildly inconsistent rookie into an MVP-caliber star. When he arrived in New York, Daniel Jones had the best season of his career. Wherever Daboll goes, the offense improves, period. Even in his lone season with Miami in 2011, the offense moved from 30th in the league to 20th. That's not a fluke. Now imagine the Dolphins retaining McDaniel but adding Daboll to the offensive staff. That idea might seem crazy at first, but it actually makes a ton of sense. If McDaniel is retained but doesn't have full control over the offense or quarterback development moving forward, Daboll could come in as an offensive consultant or even a coordinator, offering a proven eye for quarterback talent and potentially even leading the charge in identifying Tua's successor down the line. Because let's be honest, the writing is on the wall for Tua. His contract situation means he's likely in Miami for at least one more season, but beyond that, it's unclear. This is where Daboll's quarterback scouting comes into play. He was reportedly the guy who pushed hard for the Giants to draft Jackson Dart, someone he was clearly enamored with. The front office wasn't on the same page, and that kind of disconnect may have contributed to the chaos in New York. But if Miami brought in Daboll, they'd be getting a guy who not only can coach quarterbacks but also has a proven ability to scout them. Think about that. The Dolphins could bring in Daboll to work with Tua in 2025, while simultaneously grooming the next franchise quarterback behind the scenes. That's the type of forward-thinking move that could secure the future of this team for the next decade. Now, let's entertain the more dramatic option, firing McDaniel outright and handing the keys to Daboll. Some fans will immediately reject that idea, especially given McDaniel's creativity and offensive genius. And to be clear, the two coaches were hired in the same cycle. Since then, Miami has actually been the better team overall. But here's the catch. If a new GM wants his own guy, if McDaniel loses the locker room, or if this season ends in a collapse, then hiring someone like Brian Daboll starts to look more like a calculated move than a gamble. He brings credibility, experience, and an elite football mind. And yes, while I personally believe McDaniel is still a better version of Daboll, there's no denying that Daboll's ability to evaluate and work with quarterbacks could be exactly what Miami needs during this next phase of transition. But there's another twist to this story, and it's a big one. Daboll's most likely landing spot if Miami doesn't act? returning to the Buffalo Bills as their offensive coordinator. That's right, his old home, with his old quarterback Josh Allen in the same division as the Dolphins. Imagine facing a rejuvenated Bills offense twice a year with Daboll calling plays again. That's a nightmare waiting to happen. Buffalo fans have grown frustrated with Joe Brady's inconsistent play calling, and if Brandon Beane and the front office listen to the noise, they might push Brady out just to bring Daboll back. And here's where things get even more complicated. If the Dolphins decide to stick with Mike McDaniel but still aim to shake up the coaching structure, bringing Brian Daboll onto the staff in a high-level offensive role might not be as simple as it sounds. There's a very real possibility that Daboll views himself strictly as a head coach now. After all, he just spent 3 seasons leading the New York Giants, took home a Coach of the Year award, and guided a team to a playoff win, something Miami hasn't done since 2000. From Daboll's perspective, returning to a coordinator or assistant role might seem like a step backward, but that's where Miami's pitch has to be strategic. If they can offer Daboll something like assistant head coach / offensive consultant with significant say in quarterback development and play design, it might appeal to him, especially if it's presented as a bridge to another head coaching opportunity down the line, or even a succession plan if things go south for McDaniel. The Dolphins would need to sell Daboll on the idea that he's not just joining the staff, he's becoming a cornerstone of the organization's long-term vision. And there's another layer to consider: quarterback scouting. Let's say Tua remains the starter in 2025 because of his contract and cap hit. That doesn't mean Miami isn't quietly laying the groundwork for his successor. Daboll's influence here could be massive. His known interest in Jackson Dart, who he reportedly wanted to take as high as number 3 overall in this year's draft, shows how strong his convictions are when it comes to quarterback talent. And that's exactly the kind of conviction Miami has lacked when it comes to the quarterback position for years. Since Dan Marino retired, the Dolphins have been on a constant carousel of signal callers. Maybe Daboll could finally be the one to bring that cycle to an end. Just imagine the scenario. Tua starts in 2025 with Daboll on the staff as the quarterback guru, all while grooming a first-round rookie behind the scenes. Maybe it's Dante Moore, or Ty Simpson, or even someone not yet on our radar. With Daboll's proven eye and developmental acumen, the transition plan could be one of the smoothest we've ever seen in franchise history. It's not just about coaching anymore, it's about building the next 5 to 10 years of Miami Dolphins football. Of course, this all hinges on how the rest of the 2025 season plays out. If the Dolphins crash out and go 4-13, there's likely going to be a house cleaning from top to bottom: new GM, new head coach, new QB plans. If they hover around 7-10, things get trickier. That's the no man's land in the NFL. Not good enough to be confident in your future, but not bad enough to justify blowing it up. And that's where decisions like hiring Brian Daboll could tip the scales. But let's not ignore the other potential outcome that's looming over all of this like a dark cloud: Daboll returning to Buffalo. I can't stress this enough. If Miami drags its feet and Buffalo swoops in, that's a worst-case scenario for the Dolphins. You're not only missing out on one of the best quarterback developers in the league, but you're also watching your top division rival rearm with the same guy who helped turn Josh Allen into a juggernaut. That move alone could extend Buffalo's reign over the AFC East for another half-decade. Bills fans are already calling for Joe Brady's job due to